Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, Imaging This. Two people earn the exact same salary, same job title, same paycheck, same work ethic. One of them lives in a state where they keep more of every dollar, buy a home for a third of the price, and quietly invest the difference. 30 years later, that person is a millionaire. The other one, earning the identical income somewhere else, is still renting and barely getting by. The difference wasn't income, it was geography. Where you live might be the single most underrated financial decision you'll ever make. It quietly determines how much of your paycheck you actually keep, how much of your life goes toward housing, and how much you have left over to build real wealth. And most people never run the numbers, they just live where they happen to land. So today we're going to run those numbers. I'll show you what actually makes a state good or bad for building wealth. It's three things, and it's not the ones people usually fixate on. Then I'll walk you through the states that come out on top in 2026, the traps that make a cheap state secretly expensive, and how to figure out the right move for your own situation. This isn't about vibes or weather, it's about the math. Let's get into it. The three numbers that actually matter. Forget the glossy best places to live lists for a second. When you're building wealth, only three financial factors really move the needle. Everything else is secondary. The first is taxes, specifically how much of your income the state takes before you ever get to save it. The second is housing costs, because housing is the largest expense in almost every household budget, and it's the biggest lever on how much you have left to invest. And the third is income relative to cost, because a cheap state where you can't earn a living isn't actually cheap. It just feels that way until you can't find work. The magic happens when a state scores well on all three at once: low taxes, affordable housing, and enough economic opportunity to earn a real income. That combination is a wealth-building machine. Let's break down each one, because understanding the mechanism matters more than memorizing a list. Factor one, the tax advantage. Let's start with taxes, because this is where the biggest, most permanent difference lives. As of 2026, there are 9 states with no state income tax at all. They are Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. In these states, your wages simply aren't taxed at the state level. Now think about what that means over a career. If you're in a state with an income tax of, say, 5%, and you earn $70,000, you're handing over roughly $3,500 a year to the state. Move to a no-income tax state, keep that same income, and invest that $3,500 a year at an 8% average return. Over 30 years, that single difference grows to well over $400,000 from one tax line. That's the power of the tax advantage compounding over a lifetime. For high earners, the gap is staggering. Someone earning $500,000 a year can save $25,000 to $50,000 every single year just by living in Florida instead of California. That's not a rounding error. That's a second retirement account funded entirely by a change of address. But, and this is the part the just moved to Texas crowd always skips, no income tax does not automatically mean lower taxes. These states have to make their money somewhere. And they do. The tax trap. Look at the total burden. Here's the trap. A state with no income tax often makes up the revenue through higher property taxes or higher sales taxes. And if you're not careful, those can eat up your entire income tax savings. Texas is the classic example. No state income tax, but some of the highest property taxes in the country. A homeowner in the Houston area can pay $8,000 to $15,000 a year in property taxes. New Hampshire is the same story. No income tax, no sales tax even, but among the very highest property taxes in the nation. So the number you actually care about isn't the income tax rate. It's the total tax burden, income plus property plus sales taxes, all combined. That's the real figure. And here's a nuance that matters for your specific situation. If you rent, you capture almost all of the no income tax benefit without directly paying those high property taxes. So a place like Texas is fantastic for a renter. If you buy a big house, those property taxes claw a lot of the savings back. Meanwhile, states like Wyoming and South Dakota tend to have the lowest total tax burden overall, low across the board, not just on income. Tennessee has no income tax and very low property taxes, though it carries a high sales tax. The point is, run the total, not the headline. Factor 2, the housing advantage. Now the second factor, and this one is enormous because housing is where most of your money goes. The national median home price in 2026 sits north of $400,000. But that average hides an incredible spread. The difference between the cheapest and most expensive states is over $600,000 in median home value. Look at the most affordable states to buy. In 2026, West Virginia leads the nation with a median home price around $146,000 and a price-to-income ratio of just 2.9, meaning a typical home costs under 3 years of the typical income. Compare that to the national ratio of about 4.6 and to coastal markets where it's 6, 8, even 10 plus. Iowa and Kansas also come in with exceptional price-to-income ratios, around 3.0 and 3.2. Other standouts on pure affordability: Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, Oklahoma, Indiana, and Ohio all have median home prices well under $300,000. Why does this matter so much for wealth? Because every dollar you don't spend on housing is a dollar you can invest. If you buy a comparable home for $200,000 instead of $500,000, your mortgage might be $1,500 a month cheaper. Invest that $1,500 a month for 30 years, and you've built an extra 7-figure sum, purely from where you chose to plant the house. Cheap housing isn't just cheaper, it's an investing engine if you actually invest the difference. The housing trap: watch the hidden costs. But, and there's always a but because this channel runs the numbers, a low sticker price can hide expensive ownership. 2 things to watch. First, property taxes and insurance. A $200,000 home in a high property tax state can quietly cost more to own than a $300,000 home in a low tax one. Alabama, for instance, has an incredibly low property tax rate, around 0.4%, which compounds into real savings year after year. Iowa and Kansas, by contrast, have cheap homes, but above average property taxes that add a couple $1,000s a year. And in some states, Florida and Louisiana come to mind, homeowners insurance has gotten brutally expensive, especially in disaster-prone areas. Second, watch for population decline. Some of the very cheapest markets are cheap partly because people are leaving. West Virginia, Mississippi, and parts of the rural Midwest have seen population declines. That can suppress how much your home appreciates over time. A house that stays cheap forever isn't building you much equity. So the honest housing rule: look past the purchase price to the all-in cost of ownership and favor places where affordability meets some economic momentum. Factor 3, the income advantage, which brings us to the third factor, and the one that quietly makes or breaks the whole equation. Can you actually earn a good living there? Here's the uncomfortable truth about a lot of the cheapest states. They're cheap partly because incomes are low. Mississippi has the lowest median household income in the country, around $55,000 against a national figure closer to $84,000. West Virginia's job market is limited outside of a couple of cities. A cheap house isn't a bargain if you can't find work that pays. This is why the smartest wealth-building move isn't simply move to the cheapest state, it's to find the sweet spot, a place where housing is affordable and there's real economic opportunity. And those places exist. Look at the states winning on that balance. Texas has no income tax and booming job markets in Austin, Dallas, and Houston. You just have to manage the property taxes. Tennessee pairs no income tax with low housing costs and growing metros like Nashville. Places like Oklahoma City, Indianapolis, Columbus, Raleigh, Huntsville, Alabama, and the Kansas City metro keep showing up in the data as spots where you can find solid mid-sized city jobs, buy an affordable home, and still have money left to invest. Huntsville in particular has boomed on aerospace and defense. The Northwest Arkansas corridor around Bentonville has been transformed by Walmart's headquarters into a genuine corporate and tech hub. The remote work angle changes this too. If you can earn a big city salary while living in a low-cost state, you've hacked the entire equation. High income, low cost, low tax. That combination is the closest thing to a wealth-building cheat code that exists for a regular earner. Putting it together, the wealth-building sweet spot. So when you layer all 3 factors together, a pattern emerges. The best states for building wealth in 2026 aren't the flashiest or the cheapest in isolation. They're the ones that balance all 3. The no-income tax states with genuine job markets and manageable housing, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Nevada, and Washington, are strong for higher earners who benefit most from skipping income tax, as long as you account for property taxes and insurance. The affordability champions with reasonable economies, Oklahoma, Indiana, Ohio, Alabama, Kansas, and the growing corners of Arkansas, are powerful for keeping your total cost of living low so you can invest aggressively, even if their incomes are more modest. and the true winners for any given person are wherever those factors line up with your career. A remote worker earning a coastal salary in low-cost Oklahoma City is in a dramatically better wealth-building position than someone earning that same salary in San Francisco, same income, completely different outcome. Again, it's the geography. The cost of staying put. Now, I want to be balanced here because moving isn't free and it isn't always right. There are real reasons the expensive states are expensive. Higher salaries in certain industries, denser job markets, family, community, climate, culture. If living in a high-cost city is where your career genuinely pays double, the math can absolutely justify it. A high income in an expensive place can still outbuild a modest income in a cheap one. So this is not a blanket everyone should flee to Wyoming video, and there are the softer costs of moving that don't show up in a spreadsheet. Leaving family, uprooting kids from schools, walking away from a support network. Those have real value even if they don't have a dollar sign. Don't let the tax tail wag the dog of your entire life. The point isn't that you must move. The point is that you should know the number. Most people have never once calculated what their location is costing them or saving them. Once you know it, you can make a real decision. Whether that's moving, negotiating a remote arrangement, or simply choosing your next home with the full financial picture in view. The honest caveats, a few important caveats before we wrap. Because I'd rather you trust me than hype you. State-level averages hide enormous variation. A cheap state has expensive metros, and an expensive state has affordable pockets. What actually matters is the specific city and neighborhood you land in, not the state as a whole. Use the state data to narrow your search, then dig into local numbers. If you're moving primarily to dodge income tax, know that high-tax states like California and New York aggressively audit people who claim to have moved. You have to genuinely establish residency, live there, register your vehicle, change your voter registration. A half move doesn't count, and this is educational content, not personalized tax or financial advice. Tax laws change, your situation is unique, and a big relocation deserves real research or a conversation with a professional before you act. Here's the bottom line. Building wealth isn't only about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep, and where you live quietly decides a huge part of that. The best states to build wealth in 2026 are the ones that hit all three marks. They let you keep your income with low total taxes, they let you own a home without draining your future, and they give you a real chance to earn. When those three line up, an ordinary income can build an extraordinary net worth. When they fight each other, even a great salary struggles to get ahead. You don't have to pack a moving truck tomorrow, but you should run your own numbers. What you'd keep, what you'd spend on housing, and what you could earn somewhere else. Because the difference between the right location and the wrong one, compounded over a lifetime, can be the difference between comfortable and wealthy. And it's one of the few big financial levers that's entirely in your hands. If this changed how you think about where you live, do me a favor and subscribe. Net Worth Nation is built for people who want the real math behind their money decisions, not hype, not vibes, just the numbers. Drop a comment below. What state are you in right now, and is it helping or hurting your wealth building? And if you've made a money-motivated move, how did it work out? I read every single comment, and your stories help everyone watching. If you know someone stuck wondering whether their expensive city is worth it, share this video with them. Running the numbers might be exactly what they need. I'll see you in the next one. Let's build.